We live in a world where ambition is glorified. We are constantly surrounded by people who say they want to start something, build something, achieve something. We hear it in conversations at coffee shops. We see it on social media. We feel it in the words people use when they talk about their dreams. Ambition has become a kind of currency, something we all trade in, something we all like to talk about. But here's the truth: ambition by itself is meaningless. Ambition without action is just noise. Think about it. Every person you've ever admired, every leader, every creator, every innovator, they didn't get there because they talked about what they wanted. They got there because they acted, and they acted consistently. The difference between the person who dreams of changing the world and the person who actually changes the world is action. Not perfect action, not flawless action, just action. It's easy to say, I want to write a book, or I want to start a company, or I want to make a difference. It's harder to sit down every day and actually write, to actually build, to actually contribute. Words are easy. Actions cost something. Actions cost us time, discipline, and often our comfort. And that's why so many people stay stuck in ambition. They never cross the bridge into action. Let me ask you a simple question. When someone tells you they're going to do something, do you believe them, or do you wait to see what they actually do? We don't trust people because of the promises they make. We trust them because of the promises they keep. And that's true of ourselves as well. We can tell ourselves we're ambitious, we can declare to the world what we want, but unless our actions back it up, even we stop believing our own words. Ambition, on its own, is seductive. It gives us the illusion of progress without requiring progress. It makes us feel good in the moment. We say to our friends, I'm going to do this, or I'm planning that. And it feels almost as satisfying as actually doing it. But here's the danger: ambition without action creates a gap. And the bigger that gap gets, the more frustrated we feel. We know what we want, but we don't see any movement toward it. That frustration builds into doubt, into excuses, into resignation. And then we convince ourselves the dream was too big, or the timing wasn't right, or that we weren't capable. When in truth, the issue wasn't our ambition, it was our lack of action. Now, don't misunderstand me. Ambition matters. Ambition gives us a direction. It sets the compass. But a compass only tells you where north is. It doesn't walk the journey for you. You still have to take step after step, day after day. Without action, the compass is useless. Without movement, ambition remains an idea floating in your head, never becoming reality. If you want to see what people really believe in, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Someone can say, I want to get healthier. But if their actions don't include exercise, better eating, or rest, then what they really want is the comfort of ambition without the discomfort of action. Someone can say, I want to be a leader, but if they're not willing to serve others, to take responsibility, to put themselves second when it matters, then their ambition is empty. Actions are the loudest signals we send into the world. People are constantly observing, constantly interpreting, and every action either reinforces or undermines the ambition we've declared. If I tell you I want to run a marathon, but you never see me running, my ambition loses credibility. But if I never say a word about it, and you just see me running every morning, eventually when I show up at the marathon, no one is surprised. My action spoke for me. The great paradox is this: the more you talk about your ambition, the less people tend to believe you. But the more you live it, the less you have to talk at all. People can see it. People can feel it. Let me share a story. I once met a young man who told me he wanted to start a business that would change his industry. His eyes lit up as he described his ideas, the impact he wanted to make, the innovations he dreamed of introducing. But when I asked him what he was actually doing about it, the answers were vague. He was waiting for the right investors. He was waiting for the perfect time. He was waiting until he had everything figured out. A year later, he was still waiting. His ambition was still as big as ever, but nothing had changed. Contrast that with another person I met. She didn't talk much about her dreams. Instead, she was quietly building. She was testing small ideas, making mistakes, learning. She wasn't waiting for perfect conditions. She wasn't waiting for permission. She was simply acting. Over time, those small actions built momentum. People began to notice. And eventually, her business grew into something remarkable. Not because her ambition was louder, but because her actions were consistent. Here's the lesson: the world doesn't respond to your ambition, it responds to your action. The world doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. So the question is, what are your actions saying about you? Are they confirming your ambition, or are they contradicting it? Are they building credibility, or are they eroding it? Because whether you realize it or not, people are already making judgments. Your actions are already telling the story. And if your actions don't align with your ambitions, the story people believe about you won't be the one you want them to believe. This isn't about perfection. You don't need to take massive, flawless steps every day. But you do need to take steps. Small steps count. Writing 1 page a day counts. Saving a little money each month counts. Making 1 phone call, sending 1 email, having 1 conversation. That counts. It's not the size of the action that matters most, it's the consistency. Consistency is the currency of credibility. Think about trust. How do we build trust in a relationship? Not through grand gestures once in a while, but through consistent small actions over time. Showing up, being reliable, doing what we say we'll do. That's how trust is built. And the same principle applies to our ambitions. You don't prove your ambition in a single dramatic moment. You prove it in the countless, ordinary moments when you choose action over inaction. And yes, action is uncomfortable. It will challenge you. It will expose you to failure. It will force you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. But that's also the point. Action is what shapes us. Action is what transforms ambition into growth. I've met countless people who were paralyzed by fear of taking the first step. They wanted everything to be perfect before they began. But here's the truth. Perfection is the enemy of action. If you wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions, you'll be waiting forever. The perfect time is never coming. The perfect conditions don't exist. The only way forward is to start where you are, with what you have, and adjust along the way. And when you do, something incredible happens. Each small action creates momentum. Each step forward gives you a little more clarity, a little more confidence. Ambition is the spark, but action is the fuel. Without the fuel, the spark dies out. But with consistent fuel, that spark becomes a fire. So if ambition without action is just noise, then action is the music. Action is what makes ambition worth listening to. Action is what turns noise into meaning. And when people hear that music, when they see the harmony between what you say and what you do, they lean in, they believe. The next time you find yourself talking about what you want, stop and ask, what am I doing right now to make that real? What step can I take today that moves me closer? Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Today. Because every day you delay action, your ambition loses a little more credibility. And every day you choose action, even in the smallest way, your ambition grows stronger. Remember this: ambition whispers, but action shouts. Ambition hints, but action proves. Ambition inspires for a moment, but action inspires for a lifetime. Your life will not be remembered for what you wanted to do. It will be remembered for what you actually did. And that's why ambition without action is just noise. We often imagine our future as something far away, something shaped by big moments or life-changing decisions. We think of the day we graduate, the day we get the promotion, the day we start the business, the day we finally make it. But if you look closely at anyone who has achieved something meaningful, you'll find that their future wasn't created in one dramatic moment. It was shaped day by day, by the small, often invisible habits they practiced when nobody was watching. The truth is simple: your daily habits define your future. We love to celebrate breakthroughs, but breakthroughs are only the visible part of a long, invisible process. Think about an iceberg. What we see above the water is only a fraction of its size. The real mass, the foundation, lies hidden beneath the surface. In the same way, the results we admire in others, the success, the confidence, the mastery, are just the tip. What lies beneath are the countless daily habits, repeated over years, that built the foundation strong enough to sustain that success. The danger is that habits seem small. They seem insignificant in the moment. Skipping the workout today doesn't feel like a big deal. Putting off the project until tomorrow feels harmless. Choosing the quick distraction instead of doing the work doesn't seem catastrophic. And that's the trap. The small things compound. What feels like nothing in the moment becomes everything over time. There's a great truth about habits: they don't ask for permission, and they don't care about your intentions. Habits will form whether you choose them or not. Every action you take is like laying a brick, and eventually those bricks build walls, paths, or prisons. You are building your future, either consciously or unconsciously, one choice at a time. The question is whether those choices are building the life you want, or quietly pulling you in a direction you never intended to go. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. And mediocrity is not an accident, it's also a habit. The difference lies in what you choose to repeat. Think about trust again. No one trusts you because of a single grand gesture. They trust you because you show up consistently. They trust you because day after day, you prove yourself reliable. And the same is true of your future. You don't build it in one sweep, you build it in small, daily demonstrations of commitment. The morning you wake up early to focus. The afternoon you resist the easy way out. The evening you choose growth over comfort. Those choices compound into the person you become. Let me share a story. There was a man who wanted to get in shape. He signed up for the gym, bought all the gear, watched videos about fitness. On the first day, he worked out for an hour. The next day, he looked in the mirror. Nothing had changed. He felt sore, and he wondered if it was worth it. So he skipped the next day. He promised himself he'd go back next week. Weeks turned into months, and his goal slipped further and further away. His ambition was strong, but his habits betrayed him. Now compare that with someone else who made a different choice. Instead of aiming for one intense workout, She committed to a small habit, 10 minutes of exercise every day. 10 minutes doesn't sound impressive. 10 minutes doesn't make headlines, but she kept showing up. 10 minutes turned into 15, 15 into 30. Months later, not only had her body changed, but so had her mindset. She had built discipline, and she had built trust with herself, and she had built a future shaped not by a burst of ambition, but by a consistent habit. This is the power of daily habits. They redefine your relationship with yourself. They tell you and they tell the world what you value. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce an identity. You're not just doing the action, you're becoming the kind of person who does it. You're casting a vote for your future self. Here's what makes this so powerful. Habits don't just create results, they create belief. When you act consistently, you begin to believe in your own ability. And when you believe, you take bolder actions. That belief creates momentum. Momentum creates results. And results reinforce belief. It's a cycle that begins with something as small as what you do today. And yet, so many of us underestimate the importance of the everyday. We want the big win, the overnight success, the dramatic transformation. But that's not how change works. Change is slow. Growth is gradual. The future is built in quiet, ordinary days that most people overlook. It's like planting a seed. You don't see results right away. You water, you nurture, you wait. Day after day, there's no visible change. But underneath the soil, something is happening. Roots are growing. Foundations are forming. And then one day, a sprout appears. Everyone else calls it sudden, but you know it wasn't sudden. It was the product of patient, consistent care. Habits are the same. They feel invisible until they're not. And then everyone else calls you lucky when really you were just consistent. We've all met people who live in the gap between ambition and action. They have big goals, but their daily habits tell a different story. They say they want to be leaders, but their habits show avoidance of responsibility. They say they want financial freedom, but their habits show impulsive spending. They say they want strong relationships, but their habits show neglect. Eventually, the truth catches up. Your habits are always louder than your words. Your future is always shaped more by what you do daily than by what you declare occasionally. And here's the beauty: habits don't need to be huge to be transformative. Small changes repeated consistently lead to massive results. The writer who writes a page a day ends up with a book. The leader who has one meaningful conversation with a teammate each day builds trust across an organization. The person who saves a little each week eventually creates financial security. Small daily actions may not impress anyone today, but they will impress everyone tomorrow. It also means the reverse is true. Small negative habits accumulate as well. A few missed workouts, a few ignored conversations, a few wasted hours. One by one, they seem harmless. But together, they create a future you never intended. The scary part is that habits compound whether they're good or bad. The hopeful part is that you always have the power to choose which ones you'll build from today forward. The most successful people I've met don't necessarily have the biggest ambitions. They have the strongest habits. They've built structures into their lives that make their success inevitable. They don't rely on bursts of motivation, they rely on systems. And those systems are nothing more than daily habits practiced with discipline. So the real question isn't, what do you want to achieve? The real question is, what are you doing every single day to move toward it? Because your daily actions are a vote for your future self. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, progress over procrastination, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. It's easy to look ahead 5 years and imagine a future version of yourself who is wiser, stronger, more successful. But the truth is that version of you is being built right now in the smallest decisions of your day. The coffee you drink, the book you read, the conversation you have, the work you do, the rest you take. All of it matters. The future isn't waiting for you out there somewhere. The future is created in the present. So let me leave you with this thought. Your habits are speaking for you. They're telling the story of who you are becoming. If someone were to watch your day from start to finish without hearing a word about your ambitions, what would they conclude about your future? Would they see someone aligned with their vision or someone drifting away from it? The good news is you don't need to change everything at once. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a single moment. You just need to start small, start consistent, and trust the process, because the person you want to become is not built in a day. They are built day by day. And the habits you choose today are quietly, powerfully shaping the life you will live tomorrow. Your daily habits define your future, not your intentions, not your ambitions, not your occasional bursts of effort, your habits. So choose them wisely, protect them fiercely, and practice them relentlessly. Because one day, when the future arrives, it won't feel like a surprise. It will feel like the natural result of the life you built, one habit at a time. There's a simple truth we don't talk about enough. You can't declare credibility. You can only earn it. You can tell the world how ambitious you are, how talented you are, how much potential you have, but people don't believe words, they believe evidence. They don't measure you by your announcements, they measure you by your actions. Credibility is the distance between what you say and what you actually do. The smaller that distance, the stronger your credibility. The bigger that distance, the faster it erodes. We live in a culture where self-promotion is easy. Anyone can create a profile, write a mission statement, post about their ambitions, and signal their intentions to the world. It feels powerful to do so. It feels like we're already halfway there. But reality doesn't bend to self-promotion. Reality responds only to proof. The world isn't asking, what do you want to be? It's asking, what have you shown me you are willing to do? Think about the people you trust most. Chances are they didn't earn your trust by giving you speeches about their character. They earned it by showing up again and again in ways that aligned with what they said. They followed through, they delivered, they kept promises. Over time, those small acts of consistency built credibility. Trust is simply credibility earned over time. And the same principle applies to ambition. If you want to be seen as a leader, as a builder, as someone worth following, you can't just announce it. You have to embody it. You have to prove it in the small, daily choices you make. A leader is not the one who says, I'm a leader. A leader is the one whose actions make others feel led. A visionary is not the one who says, I have vision. A visionary is the one who creates momentum around a vision others can believe in. Words declare, but actions prove. I once met someone who constantly introduced themselves as an entrepreneur. Every conversation was sprinkled with phrases like my company, my venture, my innovation. It sounded impressive until you scratched beneath the surface. There was no product, no team, no actual progress. It was ambition packaged as credibility, and the problem with packaged credibility is that it eventually unwraps itself. People start asking questions. They start looking for evidence. And when they don't find it, the credibility crumbles. Announcements without evidence always collapse. Now, contrast that with another story. I met a young woman who almost never spoke about herself. She didn't label herself as an entrepreneur, but when you spent time with her, you noticed something. She was always testing ideas. She was always in conversation with potential customers. She was always iterating, improving, building. She wasn't loud about her ambition, but her work spoke for her. When she finally launched her business, people believed in her instantly, not because she told them she was credible, but because she had already earned their belief through consistent evidence. That's the difference. One tried to declare credibility, the other built it quietly through her actions. Which one do you think people trusted more? Which one do you think people were willing to invest in, follow, or support? Credibility is not about perception management. It's about integrity. It's about alignment between what you say and what you do. And here's the thing, people are incredibly good at noticing misalignment. We can sense when someone's words don't match their behavior. We can feel it. And once that doubt is planted, it's hard to erase. Every gap between intention and execution becomes a crack in the foundation of credibility. Think about leadership. The best leaders are not the ones who walk into a room and announce, I'm in charge. The best leaders are the ones whose credibility is already established through the way they've shown up for others. People naturally follow them, not because they demanded it, but because they earned it. Leadership is not granted by a title, it's granted by credibility. The same applies in our personal lives. We've all had someone make us a promise they didn't keep. Maybe they said they'd be there, but they didn't show up. Maybe they said they'd change, but nothing changed. After a while, the words become meaningless. The more they announce, the less we believe. Credibility dies not because of a lack of ambition, but because of a lack of action to support that ambition. And here's the paradox. When you truly have credibility, you don't need to announce it. People announce it for you. When you consistently deliver, people trust you. They refer you. They vouch for you. They tell others about you. Credibility has a way of spreading on its own when it's real. The louder you have to declare it, the more likely it is that you haven't earned it yet. The danger of announcing credibility too early is that it creates expectations you haven't met yet. And expectations are heavy, they create pressure, they invite scrutiny. And if your actions don't match, the gap between your words and reality becomes a stage for disappointment. On the other hand, if you let your actions lead, expectations build naturally, and when people finally see the results, you exceed them. Let's take an example from sports. Imagine a rookie who enters the league and declares, I'm going to be the best player this team has ever seen. The statement may capture headlines, but it also paints a target on their back. Every mistake will be magnified, every misstep will be criticized, and if the performance doesn't back up the words, credibility dissolves quickly. But then imagine another rookie who says little, works hard, and simply delivers results on the field. They don't have to declare anything. Their play speaks louder than words. Their credibility grows game by game. Which one earns lasting respect? In business, it's the same. Startups often fall into the trap of announcing bold ambitions before they've built the foundation. They talk about disrupting industries, changing the world, redefining the future. The ambition excites people for a while, but then investors and customers begin looking for evidence. Where is the product? Where are the results? And if the evidence isn't there, credibility evaporates. Ambition without credibility is just noise. Execution is what transforms ambition into belief. What's powerful about credibility is that it compounds over time. The more consistent your actions, the more trust you build. And the more trust you build, the more opportunities open to you. People want to work with those who deliver. They want to follow those who follow through. They want to invest in those who've proven themselves. Credibility becomes a form of currency. But unlike money, you can't print it on demand. You have to earn it one choice, one action, one promise kept at a time. It also means credibility can be lost quickly. It takes years to build and moments to destroy. One betrayal of trust, one repeated inconsistency, one gap too wide between words and actions, and credibility collapses, which is why protecting it requires discipline. It requires humility to avoid overpromising and courage to keep showing up when it's inconvenient. But here's the hopeful part: anyone can build credibility. You don't need wealth, status, or connections to earn it. You earn it by doing the things you said you would do. You earn it by living your values consistently. You earn it by letting your actions speak for you. That's available to everyone. The question is, are you willing to play the long game? Are you willing to prioritize substance over image, proof over perception, consistency over announcement? Because credibility doesn't grow overnight. It grows slowly through patience and persistence. It's not glamorous. It's not instantly rewarding. But it's the only way to build a foundation strong enough to last. So if credibility is earned and not announced, what does that mean for you right now? It means your next action matters. It means your follow-through matters. It means that what you do today is either adding a brick to the foundation of credibility or removing one. Every interaction, every promise, every choice either reinforces trust or weakens it. And over time, those bricks become the story people believe about you. At the end of the day, your ambition will only carry you so far. It may open a door, it may spark interest, it may get people curious. But what keeps the door open, what sustains interest, what transforms curiosity into belief is credibility. And credibility is not something you declare, it's something you prove. The loudest declaration you can make is not through words, but through consistent action. The strongest credibility you can have is not the one you announce, but the one others affirm because of what you've shown them. People don't want to hear who you say you are. They want to see who you really are. And that's why credibility is always earned, never announced. We love the idea of intensity. It's dramatic, it's inspiring. It's the story that captures attention. The person who works all night for a week, the one who makes a massive leap, the one who pushes beyond limits in a single burst of effort. Intensity makes great headlines, but if you want to understand what truly creates trust, mastery, and long-term success, you have to look beneath the surface, because it isn't intensity that sustains growth, it's consistency. One big moment of effort might impress people for a while, but it doesn't change who you are. What changes who you are is the discipline of showing up again and again, even when the spotlight isn't on you. Consistency doesn't grab attention in the same way as intensity, but it's what makes the difference between ambition that fades and ambition that endures. Think about it in relationships. You don't build love or trust with one grand gesture, no matter how intense it is. Buying flowers, planning a special trip, writing a heartfelt letter, all of those can be meaningful, but they don't replace the need for consistency. Love is built when you listen every day, when you show up in small ways, when you're reliable in the quiet, ordinary moments. Trust grows from the repeated proof that someone will be there. Intensity might light the fire, but consistency keeps it burning. The same is true in health. Going to the gym once and lifting as much weight as you can for 2 hours won't make you strong. Eating a single salad won't make you healthy. Intensity has little to offer without consistency. But if you commit to 30 minutes of exercise a day, if you make small, better choices with your meals over and over, if you create a pattern, that pattern will transform you. Strength, health, and energy don't come from what you do occasionally. They come from what you do regularly. This is what makes consistency so powerful and so difficult. Intensity feels exciting. It gives us a rush. Consistency feels boring. It asks us to do the same thing day after day without immediate reward. Intensity gives us quick results to point to, even if they don't last. Consistency requires patience and faith in the process. But if you study anyone who has built something meaningful, anyone who has created lasting change, what you will always find is not a single act of intensity, but a long, consistent pattern of effort. There's a great irony in the way we think about success. We often admire people for their breakthroughs, the visible peaks of their journeys. But what really made those breakthroughs possible were the years of consistent, often unseen work. The artist who seems to have a sudden hit spent countless hours creating, failing, refining. The entrepreneur who came out of nowhere, spent years showing up day after day, building brick by brick. The athlete who makes the winning shot practice that shot thousands of times when nobody was watching. Intensity gives us the highlight reel. Consistency writes the whole story. Consider how trust works in teams. If you have a colleague who stays late one night to help you with a project, you might feel grateful. But if that same colleague consistently shows up, supports you, and proves reliable day after day, that's when trust is built. Trust doesn't grow from an intense gesture. It grows from repeated demonstrations over time. People don't need intensity from you. They need to know they can count on you. And this principle applies not only to others, but also to ourselves. One of the biggest challenges we face is not convincing others to believe in us, but convincing ourselves. And the way we build belief in ourselves is through consistency. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce your identity. Every time you show up, even in small ways, you build self-trust. That trust becomes confidence. And confidence isn't built from intensity. It's built from the quiet knowledge that you've proven yourself consistent. I once spoke with someone who wanted to become a writer. They told me about their dream of publishing a book. So they took a week off work, sat down, and wrote for hours each day. By the end of the week, they were exhausted, burned out, and discouraged by how much work remained. The intensity of their effort couldn't be sustained. They gave up soon after. Now contrast that with another person who decided to write just 1 page a day. 1 page isn't dramatic. It doesn't sound like much. But over the course of a year, that 1 page a day became a full manuscript. They didn't burn out. They didn't rely on bursts of inspiration. They relied on consistency. And in the end, they reached the goal the first person couldn't sustain. That's the difference. Consistency creates moments. Consistency creates outcomes. We underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. We think we need to make giant leaps when in reality, tiny steps compound into extraordinary results. A drop of water doesn't seem like much, but over time, enough drops can carve a canyon. Consistency compounds. And the longer you practice it, the greater the results. Of course, consistency requires something intensity does not humility. It asks us to be patient, to accept that results won't come overnight, to keep going even when it feels like nothing is happening. That's hard. We crave recognition, we crave signs of progress, but growth often happens invisibly below the surface until one day it becomes undeniable. The seed takes time before it breaks through the soil. The foundation must be laid before the building can rise. Consistency is the work beneath the surface that eventually creates visible change. There's another important truth here. Consistency beats intensity, not only in results but also in credibility. People don't trust intense bursts of effort because they can't rely on them. They trust consistent behavior because it's predictable. They know what to expect. And when people know what to expect from you, they begin to depend on you. Dependability is credibility in action. And it's born from consistency. Think of any lasting relationship, any successful organization, any respected leader. None of them relied on one big moment to define them. They relied on a pattern of behavior. They built credibility not by announcing who they were, but by proving it consistently. Intensity may win applause, but consistency wins loyalty. So why do we often chase intensity instead of consistency? Because intensity is easier in some ways. It requires short bursts of energy. It feels satisfying quickly. It gives us a story to tell. Consistency, on the other hand, requires discipline. It requires us to keep going when nobody notices, when nobody claps, when nobody is impressed. It's slow, it's quiet. But that's also why it works. The very things that make consistency unglamorous are what make it transformative. If you want to change your life, don't look for the next big burst of intensity. Look at what you're doing every single day. Ask yourself, what small action can I repeat over and over until it becomes part of me? Don't try to do everything at once. Choose one thing. Be faithful to it. Let it shape you. Over time, that one habit will compound into something remarkable. The future doesn't belong to those who can push hardest for a moment. It belongs to those who can keep going for a lifetime. Intensity makes noise. Consistency creates a rhythm. Intensity grabs attention. Consistency earns respect. Intensity starts the race. Consistency finishes it. At the end of your life, people won't remember you for the intense bursts. They'll remember you for the consistent way you showed up. For your family, for your friends, for your work, for your values. That's the legacy of consistency. And that's why it matters far more than intensity ever could. So the choice is yours. You can chase the thrill of intensity and keep starting over when it fades, or you can embrace the discipline of consistency and build something that lasts. The world doesn't need more intense ambition. It needs more consistent action. Because in the long run, it's not what you do occasionally that defines you. It's what you do consistently. Consistency over intensity. Always. We all have visions for our lives. We all imagine what we could become, what we could build, the difference we could make. Vision is powerful. It's the ability to see a future that doesn't exist yet and to believe in its possibility alone isn't enough. Words, ideas, and dreams are fragile unless they're anchored in action. To truly lead, to truly inspire, to truly make your vision real, you have to be the proof of it. It's one thing to talk about the future you want. It's another to embody it. The greatest leaders, the most impactful people, don't just describe their vision. They live it. They turn themselves into evidence of what they believe. They become the walking, breathing proof that their vision is possible. And that's why people believe in them. Anyone can say, I want to change the world. Anyone can say, I want to start something meaningful. Anyone can describe the life they want to live. But people don't believe what you say. They believe what they see. They believe in the way you carry yourself, in the choices you make, in the habits you keep. They believe when they can look at your life and say, yes, I see it. It's real. It's possible. If your vision is about building something enduring, then you must show endurance in your own life. If your vision is about leading others, then you must demonstrate leadership in the way you serve and guide people today. If your vision is about creating trust, then you must prove trustworthy in every interaction. You can't separate the vision you hold from the person you are. People won't follow the vision if they can't see it alive in you. Think about history's great movements. The people who inspired change weren't the ones who gave the most speeches or made the most declarations. They were the ones who lived their vision in such a way that others couldn't ignore it. They didn't ask people to believe in an idea they weren't willing to embody themselves. They became living examples of what they were fighting for. That's why their vision spread. That's why it endured. There's a danger when vision becomes disconnected from action. When we talk about big ideas but don't live them out, people see the gap. They notice when our lives don't align with our words. And when that happens, belief fades. Vision loses power when it isn't backed by proof. No matter how inspiring your words, if your actions don't match, the vision collapses. I once knew someone who spoke passionately about creating a culture of collaboration in their company. They gave speeches about teamwork. They shared articles about the power of cooperation. They used all the right words. But when it came to their own behavior, they made decisions in isolation. They didn't listen to their team. They prioritized their own voice above others. The vision sounded good, but the proof wasn't there. And over time, no one believed the vision anymore. Words without proof don't inspire, they frustrate. Now compare that to another leader I knew who rarely gave speeches about culture. Instead, they lived it, they showed up for their team. They listened, they supported, they modeled collaboration in every meeting, in every decision. People didn't follow them because of what they said about vision. They followed because they could see the vision alive in the leader's actions. That leader didn't have to convince anyone. They were the proof. And this principle isn't limited to leadership, it applies to all of us. If you say you want to live a healthy life, then let your daily habits prove it. If you say you want to build strong relationships, let the way you invest in others show it. If you say you want to grow, let your willingness to learn and change demonstrate it. Whatever your vision is, don't just describe it, be it. The truth is, people are always watching. They are always looking for cues. They are asking themselves, do I believe this person? Do I believe in what they stand for? And the answer never comes from your words. It comes from your example. If your vision is strong, your life has to be the evidence. Otherwise, the vision is just a dream, not a reality. Being the proof of your vision requires courage. It means holding yourself accountable to the same standard you ask of others. It means not hiding behind words, but stepping into the responsibility of embodying what you say you believe. That's not easy. It's easier to talk than to live. But living your vision is what separates those who inspire from those who merely entertain. It also requires patience. Proof doesn't come overnight. You can't demonstrate credibility, trust, or transformation in a single act. It takes time. It takes consistency. People will test your vision. They will watch to see if you live it when it's inconvenient, when it's costly, when no one is applauding. That's when proof is earned. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Let me share a story. I once met a teacher who told me about her vision of helping every student believe in their potential. It was a beautiful idea. But she didn't just talk about it. Every day, she lived it. She stayed after school to help struggling students. She celebrated small wins. She invested time in the kids no one else noticed. She didn't need to announce her vision. It was obvious in her actions. The students believed in her because they could see that she believed in them. She became the proof of her vision, and because of that, her vision became real in the lives of her students. That's the kind of life we're all called to live. Not one where we constantly describe the future we want, but one where we embody it so fully that people can't help but see it. Being the proof of your vision means taking ownership. It means accepting that if you want the world to believe in your dream, you have to live in such a way that your life validates it. The beauty of this is that when you become the proof, you don't have to persuade people with arguments. You inspire them through example. People are moved by what they witness, not what they're told. Proof creates belief. Belief creates momentum. And momentum turns vision into reality. But here's the challenge. If you don't live your vision, someone else will. People are drawn to proof. They are drawn to authenticity. They are drawn to those whose lives align with their words. If you spend your time only talking about your vision, but never embodying it, You'll watch others who do live it earn the trust, the influence, and the impact you wanted. This is why alignment matters so deeply. Your vision and your actions must be in harmony. If they're not, you'll always feel a tension inside. You'll feel the frustration of knowing what you want, but not becoming it. You'll feel the gap between who you say you are and who you actually are. That gap not only weakens your credibility, it weakens your own belief in yourself. The way to close that gap is simple: let your actions catch up with your words. Let your life become the living embodiment of your vision. Being the proof of your vision doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean you never fail. It means you own your failures, you learn from them, and you keep moving forward. People don't expect perfection. They expect authenticity. They expect effort. They expect to see you striving to live what you say you believe. Even in failure, you can still be proof if your response shows resilience, integrity, and growth. At the end of the day, your vision isn't something you convince people of with words. It's something you convince them of with your life. If you want people to believe in your future, they must see it alive in your present. If you want them to trust your dream, they must see you living as if it's already true. So ask yourself, if I never said a word about my vision, would people still know what it is by watching my life? If the answer is yes, you are on the right path. If the answer is no, then the work is not to talk more, but to live more, to align, to embody, to become the proof. Because in the end, the most powerful vision is not the one spoken, but the one lived. And the most compelling proof is not found in the speeches we give, but in the lives we lead. If you want to inspire, if you want to create change, if you want your vision to endure, then stop trying to convince people with your words. Let your actions be the evidence. Let your life be the story. Be the proof of your vision.